this is really more of an update about Project Hope. Where are we? Mr. Penner talked a little bit about that earlier, and so we're going to turn that over to you guys.
So we're going to update you on Project Hope, and whoops, we have the 3 sides to the triangle, and I'm going to take the first side, which is social and emotional. Just in case you didn't know, we had a collaborative project that came together at last minute this school year with our student IDs and our faculty IDs. On the back of them, we now have the suicide national risk assessment number, and we also, or the prevention line number, and we also have the safety line, see something, say something.
I thought
on the
that
back
was
of our ID cards.
fantastic.
We did have a few schools that printed theirs up, but next year they'll all have it. So that's something we got in place this year. Okay, Lexington County Mental Health, you heard part of it already. One of the persons that got hired as a supervisor, that was Rebecca Curry. She was our counselor at Red Bank Soxagatha we like so much. She's now the supervisor. So it's good because she's with our district already, so she knows us. So that's going to be nice to have that supervisor, Rebecca Curry, Miss Rebecca Curry. She's going to be there. So I'm meeting with her and Miss Beth Hook. We developed the procedures, fine-tuned them, the referral forms, and we're ready to go. We're going to have our first placement meeting tomorrow, which will be Gilbert High School and Gilbert Middle. Now, we just don't throw the employee out there. We set up a meeting with the principal, and we do that with the team. That's all the administrators, the school psychologists, the school counselors, the nurse, basically they're important people in the team. And we go out there and meet with them saying, here's a new employee, this is how the process works, this is what it looks like, let them ask questions so that we get everything off to Sue Smart. We'll do that for all 7 schools. They've hired Carolina Springs Elementary, Middle, and the alternative school persons. They're coming online probably next week or so. We'll get them out there and do the same thing. They promised me that we'll have all 7 in place by the end of October. So they're doing the hiring, get everything done there. Parents are giving feedback already. They're excited about it. They're asking how soon does it start? Can we transfer our case from downtown to the school? One parent called me and says, can I do my family counseling at the school? And I said, yes, this is all going to work out for you. We're going to have all this in place. Even counselors are excited. We can refer some more people right here in the school. Kids are not going to lose as much academic time, so it's really good in what we're going to do. Last thing is our wellness team implementation. Just for the wellness teams, that's looking at a team that will meet once or twice a month. They'll staff anything that negatively impacts a child. It's going to have our key leaders at our school, the administrators, the counselors, the social worker and nurse, the interventionists, et cetera, will be on the team. We'll look at that and they'll say, what does this kid need? RTI, 504, social work referral. It's to make sure we're looking at everything. We have everybody on the same page and everybody knows what they're doing with the child. So how we're going to do the process, I'm going to have the procedures written and done by the end of October and get them to SLT for approval. Then we have 4 schools that have volunteered to pilot it. That's Gilbert High School, Gilbert Middle, Meadow Glen Middle, and Lexington Elementary. And we're going to train their staffs by the end of December. January, we'll come back, the implementation of pilot. We'll be getting feedback, what worked, what didn't work, what need to tweak. Then we'll train to all the schools, and then starting next year, we'll have full implementation, and it will align with our Lexington County mental health people in place across the schools. So we'll have everything at one time going in place to hit it. So that's the update on that side of the triangle with social emotional. Any questions for me?
So you've had 2 presentations already. One was kind of a balcony view of what we think it's going to look like, and one was a more specific of the details of what we hope it looks like. And what I want to bring to you today in a very short order is kind of what a day actually looks like, what it actually is like at AES now that we have students that are there. I will tell you that we have less than 50 students there currently. Forgive me for being a little vague on the numbers, but I don't want to be too specific for confidentiality reasons. The vast majority of those were students who had offenses at the end of last school year, so they began the school year there. We've had a few students that have been sent to AES this school year, again, less than 10, less than 5 actually, that are there. But the whole process has changed, and so when a student now goes to AES, Alternative Educational Services, their induction process involves Mr. Rabin talked about this last time we spoke. They're given an assessment called the Social Skills Improvement System, SSIS. And basically what that does, it provides certain behavior levels and social skill levels, whether they have issues with bullying or whether they have issues with control or cooperation, that sort of thing. From those results, with their mentor, and every student there has a mentor, they develop a success plan. And so that success plan kind of drives the students stay there. It becomes a part of the triage meetings that they'll have hopefully at least 3 times while the student is there. The triage meetings were supposed to start last week. Florence had different plans, so they've started this week. The first round of those will not include the student and the parent. It'll include the behavior coach, the administration, the counselor, and they'll look at and the mentor. They'll look at the student success plans. Later meetings will include the students. It will include the parents. It will include the school support system. And what's cool about that is there's a support system of the administrators, the graduation coach, the counselor at the home school. That is a part of this student's triage meetings, whether they're there in person or on the phone or whether we update them after the meetings are held. In fact, those teams have already, from the high schools, have already visited more than once the students that are at AES now. So just conceptualize that for just a moment. The same person who sent the student to AES is now there as an advocate for that student at AES and becomes their advocate when they return back to their home school. And we had these return dates that were rather artificial. Before, they would go back to their home school at the end of a 9 weeks or the end of a grading period. We want to send them back now when they're ready. And when the triage team, which includes the administrators, which includes the students, which includes the parents, which includes the support system team from the school, says that they're ready. I mentioned the mentors. Every student has a mentor. Right now, the ratios are very low. Some are 1-to-1. I don't think a teacher now has more than 4. But every morning for 30 minutes, they meet with every one of those students. They have breakfast. They talk about academics. They talk about any issues that they're bringing to school that day. It's basically kind of setting the stage for the day. At the end of the day, those same students meet with those same mentors and kind of debrief the day, how it went, and kind of prepare them for the next day. So they have an hour with sometimes 1-to-1 mentor while they are there. And again, as the population is bound to increase, then the mentors will have more students that they're responsible for. But it's an hour a day that they're having one-on-one or very small ratios of conversations with students to get them ready for the day and to kind of debrief the day as it ends. And all of those conversations are centered around this student success plan that's been created to help them thrive while they're at AES and, more importantly, when they transition back to their home school. Once they do, as I said, once they do transition back to their home school, they have that success team in place that involves the behavior coach or the graduation coach or the administrator, whomever the school counselor, whomever that might be, to help that student have a successful transition and be able to be repopulated into the regular school without an issue. The students who have had first-time drug and alcohol offenses, we have had a handful of those this year, again, very small number. All of them have accepted our offer to go back to school and have accepted the conditions that they will go through the counseling, that the families will go through family counseling, and that they will be randomly drug tested for the next 12 months. In fact, I don't think there's been much of a discussion. There's not been much of any thought process. This is the greatest thing in the world. And the beauty of it is the few that have come through our office, they went to their school today. They went to their home school today. Their schedule was not interrupted. So that's working real well. Heather Johnson is our RADAC social worker, and she is shepherding that process. So when those kids get the referral, have the hearing, and are allowed to go back to their home school, then she intervenes, and she kind of sort of rides herd on them. She makes contact with the student, makes contact with the parents, making sure that they've set up the LORADAC counseling and set up the family counseling and all that sort of thing. And so she is yet another advocate for those students. And again, they're going to wake up tomorrow, and they're going to go back to their school, and they're going to go to band, and they're going to play football, and they're going to do all those things that we hope will factor into this graduation rate and hopefully factor into, you know, removing the barriers that we've talked about that the students have sometimes to be successful.
Mr. Caldwell,
Yep.
I'm real in favor of that, but can you do us a favor, maybe in May or so, since that is something, a new thing that we're putting in place, if you could give us an update on what you're hearing and how it's working?
Absolutely.
Because
in fact,
that's such a big
Oh, absolutely. I
piece of
suspect there'll be an
this.
update prior to May.
No,
but-
but you know, like at the end of this school year.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What I want to talk about is how successful it was, and it's very early. We're 15, 16 days into it, but and I'll also say this: one of the things that I highlighted as a win was in 2 school years ago, Focus had 68 kids who were expelled from Focus, not expelled and went to Focus. They were actually there and expelled from Focus because of behavior issues. This past year, as kind of a precursor to what we were doing with Project Hope, that number was reduced to 19. So far, into the 4th week of school, they have had 2 discipline referrals, not suspensions, 2 discipline referrals that have made its way to the office, because lots of people are laying hands on these kids, and we've used the word therapeutic, and it is a much more therapeutic approach. We are holding them responsible. We're holding them accountable. We're not making them feel good about being bad. But we are not just some meal where we're waiting for them to cross some line where we kick them out.
What's the primary reason you get expelled from Focus?
Sometimes it's drugs and alcohol. I don't know that I have a primary reason. It's sometimes it's an accumulation of offenses, and you don't get to accumulate many offenses if you're in a facility because of your poor decision making. But again, I don't think that there's any school in this district that, and I know that the enrollment's very low, but I don't think any school can say after 3 weeks of school they've had 2 discipline referrals. That's pretty impressive to me. Questions?
Thank you very much.